Many people know about psychedelics. You got your ayahuasca, your magic mushrooms, your DMT made popularized by Joe Rogan, and also that very lickable frog from that one Simpsons episode. But what's psychedelic assisted therapy? Psychedelic assisted therapy clinics have been popping up all over North America, and I'm a registered nurse of over 10 years, and I used to manage one of those clinics. So today I'm going to talk about psychedelic assisted therapy, what's involved, and maybe you can make a decision for yourself to see if it's something right for you. So I'll share a brief story on how I got started with psychedelic assisted therapy. So when I was a young wee little teenager, I suffered a lot from depression, anxiety, but I didn't even know it at the time. I didn't realize that my inability to cope with my emotions resulted in, maladaptive behaviors like procrastination, or avoidance, or, constantly feeling like I'm angry. I didn't know any of that. It was up until I became a mental health nurse, and then I started to realize, like, oh, you know what, maybe I am, kind of depressed. This is what depression looks like. And I remember going to a conference at the time with some of my friends. It was a conference for investing, funny enough. And I saw this, Asian guy on stage, and I just thought to myself, like, wow, he's so charismatic. He was a participant just like myself, but he got up on stage, to present something. I forget what. He was kind of demonstrating something, but he was a participant just like I was. And I just was feeling very captivated by his energy. And so it was in the intermission, and I went up to talk to him, and he, long story short, became my life coach. Shout out to Nicholas Wong. But anyways, he did his own journey, plant spirit medicine journey, and he invited me to go to one of these ceremonies myself. And so I drove 9 hours east and ended up doing a shamanic plant ceremony. And that experience was quite difficult, but it actually kind of opened me up, and in a way that I didn't think could be possible. And there was no closing that lid back up afterwards. There was a part of me that kind of remembered, like, oh, this is what I want to do this is how it feels to be like loved, or this is how it feels to be supported. And I remember like, coming to and just thinking and looking around at all of the facilitators in that ceremony and thinking to myself how much I wanted to be one of those people. Like, I felt so supported and felt so safe with the people that were there that I just wanted to be the facilitators, and so that I could give back to other people what I experienced in my journey. And so that was the beginning of my psychedelic experience. And so now fast forward, I've helped facilitate psychedelic journeys and spoken to like hundreds of people about psychedelic assisted therapy while I was working at my previous job. Now, what is psychedelic assisted therapy? Psychedelic assisted therapy harnesses the positive effects of psychedelics to enhance therapy. One of the ways it does this is by turning off the default mode network of our brain. The default mode network is the autopilot part of our brain that comes on when we're not focusing heavily or concentrating on a math problem or a difficult task, or creative work. It comes on when we're maybe idly watching the dishes or walking the dog. And for example, it might sound like this. Oh, wow, that conversation with Sally today was really embarrassing. Why did I say that to her? I'm such an idiot. That is something that sometimes occurs in my head. Now, that sounds a little bit critical. Yes, it does. For many of us, that default mode network can sound quite harsh and criticize us all the time. Over time, that can lead to depression, or if you're someone that ruminates about the future a lot, over time that can lead to anxiety. So that's what the default mode network is. And when it's turned off, essentially what that means is it then allows our emotions, those kind of emotions that we tend to kind of bury deep inside of us, those can come up much easier. Much easier without us judging those emotions, without criticizing. It can come up, be felt, and then be processed without us over intellectualizing or analyzing it. Additionally, it will also amplify what's already inside of you. So, making it much easier for you to recognize any feelings that you might be hiding or suppressing on a daily life, making you just a bit more vulnerable and open to your therapist, thereby making therapy much more effective. Secondly, psychedelics create something called neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. Neuroplasticity is essentially our brain's ability to adapt and change and be a bit more malleable to that. And neurogenesis is essentially brain growth or the creation of new neurons. Who doesn't want a more wrinkly brain? This is important because when we're trying to create new networks or new thought patterns, we need our brain to be more malleable and more plastic for those new neural pathways to occur. Think about it as in creating a new, pathway. You want the least resistance possible. When your brain is rigid and hard, it's hard to create a new pathway, but it's when it's more malleable and plastic, that new neural pathway forms much more easily. Another point I want to make is when you're under the influence of psychedelics, our brain lights up. All those neural pathways start to make connections with each other. And what that means is it's much easier for us to access different parts of our brain, form new perspectives, and generally, again, create those new neural pathways that we want to create, those new positive thought forms. And now, what is the role of the therapist or the health practitioner that is guiding or assisting you in your psychedelic journey? One of the key things it does is they are responsible for creating what we call the container for the space. The container is essentially not an actual container like a bucket, but it's an energetic container. It's a container where the participant, the client, feels safe to express their emotions, be vulnerable, be in the depths of, grief or anger, sadness or happiness, and know that they're not going to be judged or criticized, and generally be held in whatever they are going through. It's a safety container. The therapist will hold space and witness the person undergoing whatever transformation that is happening. The other thing is the facilitator also helps with the set and setting portion. So the setting is the physical space in which the psychedelic journey is held. So that could look like maybe managing the lighting. Oftentimes it is like a low, dim lighting. With psychedelics, people can be quite sensitive to light. Another thing is music, curating a music that is, maybe non-lyrical or a bit more calm to help people go inwards into the experience. And also just the safety of it all, making sure that people aren't going to be going outside and, crossing the road or falling off a cliff, nothing like that. Just making sure that the physical space is supportive of therapy and going inwards into the psychedelic journey for each participant. In terms of the mindset, this is where the preparation phase comes up. You and your therapist will usually want to build some rapport, so you feel comfortable with the therapist or facilitator, and they can kind of understand why you've come to them. What are your intentions for this psychedelic journey? Oftentimes people might want to be resolving relational issues, or maybe they're feeling lost in their life. You and the therapist will come up with a few intentions that might help guide you on the psychedelic journey. These intentions kind of act like a lighthouse. Imagine if you were riding the waves as a psychedelic journey. The waves might pull you left and right, might want to distract you from thinking one thing or the other. But an intention kind of helps steers you towards the way, or subconsciously steer you into the direction that would be helpful for you. Again, that happens in the preparation phase of your of the psychedelic experience, usually before your psychedelic journey. Intentions are very important. Now, during the psychedelic experience, the facilitators or therapists, their role is really just to hold space, to ensure that you're safe in the environment that you are, that you feel comfortable to express whatever you need to express, and trust basically that your brain and your body knows what to do to heal itself. Sometimes that can look quite hands-off, and sometimes it is. There is a trusting of the medicine and of your body and mind to know what to do or where to go. Other times, there is some intuition involved in where the therapist might intuitively know that you might need, a hand holding or pressure to your feet. And in terms of physical touch, obviously that is established prior to each psychedelic journey. After the psychedelic experience, we have what we call integration. That's when you and the facilitator or therapist will take some time to dissect what happened during the psychedelic experience, to process any feelings or thoughts that came up, and kind of make meaning out of the journey, any mystical experiences you might have had, so that you can apply these new lessons into your everyday life. Now, who can benefit from psychedelic assisted therapy? Studies have shown that it can be beneficial for those with depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and certain types of addictions, like alcoholism. I've also treated people anywhere from, their early 20s to their late 80s as well. So ensure that you check with your doctor or health practitioner to make sure that it's a right medication for you. Lastly, let's talk about managing expectations. Psychedelic assisted therapy isn't going to fix all your problems. That's not the point. This isn't about quick fixes, it's about self-discovery. By tuning into what lights you up and what drains your energy and understanding the deeper emotional patterns you might have, we begin to see ourselves much more clearly. And it's that awareness that allows us to make real change, to not just live differently, but to live more authentically. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you have any questions about psychedelic assisted therapy or any videos you might want me to do. Happy to answer any of your questions and look forward to more videos coming up. Thanks.